Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, and I am Wadzanai. So this is a platform which is specifically created for our farming community here in Zimbabwe and the various stakeholders that participate in the agricultural industry of Zimbabwe as we pave way towards achieving Vision 2030 as a country. Now, at this point in time, we are here at Arusha Farm, Goromonzi District, Mashonaland East Province, where we are going to be witnessing the planting of wheat. And the wheat season has just begun. To discuss this and more, I have taken the liberty of inviting the Chief Agronomist of Seedco here in Zimbabwe, Mrs. Wendy Matashu Madzura. Wendy, I can feel the excitement. This is the time where we produce our bread, the spaghetti, macaroni, cakes. We are talking of wheat production 2021-2022 production season. Wendy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Wadza, for having me. You know, the winter wheat season is important because wheat contributes between 4 to 5% of the GDP of agriculture. So that's a significant chunk. And did you also know that in Zimbabwe, wheat is the second most important cereal crop after maize? So indeed, I'm quite honored to be with you today.
Thank you so much. As we move right along, we are talking of producing bread. For our viewers there at home, some might want to know the dates required. I know most of them might not be able to enter into this season, but they are looking to do this next year. They want to contribute to the 4.5% of the GDP from agriculture, which is approximately 18%. They want to venture into wheat production. Let us talk about the dates, the periods that are conducive for wheat production.
In any cropping venture, the important thing is to plan and to understand the critical times that you need to establish your crop. In wheat production, the time of planting is from end of April until end of May. But the ideal time when we get the optimum yields are from the 1st of May until the 15th of May. At that time, the farmer is able to get the optimum conditions that are required for the crop. The farmer is also able to avert the rainfall that is anticipated to come after the winter period. And the farmer is also able to safeguard their crop against the problematic insect pests and diseases that come after winter. So planting during the recommended time will make sure that the farmer gets optimum yields. As we always say, that farming is a business. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing speaks to the return per dollar invested and you get the highest possible yield on the cropping venture that you will have ventured in. And in this case, it's wheat production.
Thank you so much, Wendy. For the sake of our audience there at home and the international community that tunes into this episode when we upload it on YouTube, I understand that most people would want to ask from our agronomic practices, why do we produce wheat in winter instead of probably summer? Some might argue that I have water supply throughout the year. Why should I do it in winter specifically? Why not in summer? Can you maybe take us through a brief synopsis? Why do we produce wheat in winter as Zimbabweans?
The winter wheat can give you yields of between 6 to 9 tons per hectare under optimum management. But for summer wheat, because of the challenges that are associated with the high disease pressure, the yield levels can be as low as 1.5 to 3 tons per hectare. So it's difficult for you to get very good yields in summer wheat production.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving right along, we are here at Arusha Farm. I'm going to take this moment and I would like you to talk a bit of why we have come specifically to this farm. A lot of farmers out there are also getting into production of wheat since we are in winter, but we are here at Arusha Farm. We are looking at how they are going to be planting their wheat today. Maybe a brief synopsis, a brief introduction of the reason why we came today.
Thank you so much. We are at Arusha Farm today because Arusha Farm is one of the farms that have been doing wheat production for a number of years. And we find that their production is quite good. Last year, they recorded yield levels of about 7.5 tons per hectare, farm average on 80 hectares. And they had established SC Select, a new variety of wheat. So we found that coming here to Arusha would help other farmers out there to learn from the practices that Arusha Farm is doing in wheat production. And to this season, they are going to be producing 150 hectares of wheat. So that's a significant increase from the 80 hectares that they did. But their increase is also hammered on the fact that the production that they did last season, they did well. So now they are growing their production as they are venturing into farming as a formidable business. So we want to also encourage other farmers to do the same thing in their farming ventures and take farming as a serious business.
I like that you allude the fact that here they had approximately 7 to 8 tons of wheat per hectare from last season, and you spoke of growth. Now, looking at wheat as a business, winter wheat production as a business, what would you like to say to our audience in terms of achieving higher yields, maybe maximizing their land, and also talking of profitability? Because it's not easy. It's not just, magical that a person might say from 2 tons per hectare, I'm now realizing 9 tons per hectare. There are fundamentals. There are steps that a person needs to follow. What are those from an agronomic perspective?
From an agronomic perspective, farming as a business is hinged upon 2 main pillars: access to good genetics and good agronomic practices. So the good genetics part is the first element and the first pillar that is important, where you find that the farmer should be able to associate themselves with genetics that are going to give them the best yields, coupled with the agronomic practices that they are going to employ. Then when we look at the agronomic practices, that's when we speak about issues to do with your land preparation. Here you see that we are disking the land. We are in the process of making sure that we get a fine tilth so that we optimize on the germination percentage of the seed and get the desired plant population. After that, you come in with the good fertility and nutrition management, where we speak about issues to do with your fertilizer regime, which should be guided by soil analysis, because we are now speaking of moving away from the blanket and general recommendations to a custom-made fertilizer recommendation for a farmer. From then on, in wheat production, particularly in winter, given the fact that it's produced outside of the rainfall season, a farmer should also understand the amount of water that is required. And in wheat production, you are looking at between 450 to 600 millimeters of water, which is 4.5 to 6 megaliters. So this is important for a farmer to really understand. Do you have enough resources to sustain your wheat crop? Be they the inputs, the fertilizer, the agrochemicals? Is it the water? Do you have enough of the water to irrigate from planting right through to harvesting? All these things work together to unlock the genetic potential of the good genetics that the farmer will have managed to establish. So it's all important, and it's all hinged on the ability of the farmer to understand that farming is a business, and everything that you do has a ripple effect on the outcome that you're going to get.
On that note, Wendy, I understand that in Zimbabwe, plant population plays a critical role when it comes to yields. We are talking of seed rate per hectare. As we move right along, maybe you can introduce the 2 guests that are going to be joining us in this episode.
Issues to do with plant populations are key, but in wheat production, they are guided by the implement that is going to use to establish the crop. When the farmer is using a seed drill, they are recommended to use a seed rate of between 110 to 125 kgs per hectare. When they are using broadcasting implements like a Vicon spreader, they can use a seed rate of 125 to 135 kgs per hectare. They should not go beyond that without a cost-benefit analysis of the return per dollar invested that comes with that seed rate. And on that note, we thought it would be important for us today to have the farm manager explaining the principles that they employ at this farm. And the farm manager is Mr. J. Budala. We are also going to be hearing from the Agriculture Extension Officer, because we work hand in glove with the Ministry of Agriculture to make sure that the farmers get the extension services that they require. We are going to hear from Loveness Chauke, who is the Agricultural Extension Officer for Arusha Farm in Mash East.
Thank you so much, Wendy. We are going to go on a short commercial break. Welcome back, viewers. We are in the second segment of our program, Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness. We are talking of wheat production, given that we are in winter. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore, on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page. It's Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also on YouTube. Leave your comments and suggestions on our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on Twitter, and our Twitter handle there is at Agribusiness 110. Now, earlier on, before we went to the break, I was with Wendy Matashu Madzura, the Chief Agronomist of Seedco right here in Zimbabwe. But at this point in time, we have taken the liberty of inviting Miss Loveness Chauke. She is the Agricultural Extension Officer here in Goromonzi District, Mashonaland East. Miss Chauke, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Wadza. Semudumeni tinogara tichifambira mafamasi edu zuva nezuva. Tichivakurudzira kuti munofanira kuuya muchidyara zvirimwa zvenyu nenguva. Semwaka uno watikatarisana nawo wewheat, tinokurudzira mafarmers edu kuti agadzirire kuti adyare wheat yawo nenguva. Semudhumeni tinokurudzira mafarmers edu kuti vagadzire zvavanoshandisa pakurima wheat nenguva, so that pavanozouya vakuda kurima wheat yawo zvese zvinenge zvagadzirwa nenguva, havazotori time yakareba vachigadzirisa zvavanoshandisa kudyara wheat yawo. Semudhumeni zvakare tinokurudzira mafarmers kuti musama muya mavanenge vachidyara zvirimwa zvavo zvemusama vadyare zvirimwa zvavo vachiziva kuti ndoda kuzodyara wheat. Saka zvirimwa zvatinovakurudzira kudyara, vanofanira kudyara chirimwa chekuti panguva yekudyara wheat iyeya vanofanira kunge vakohwa, vatopedza kukohwa mbeu dzavo chatobuda mumunda. Kana chibage chiya chatobuda mumunda vouya voita land preparation yavo nenguva, nokuti kurima ibhizinisi. Tinokurudzira varimi kuti vaite land preparation yavo nenguva. Murimi kana akuita land preparation yake yewheat anofanira kutanga kudhiska kurima kuya, kunyatso kurima zvakanaka, to fine tilth, kuitira kuti kana akuzouya nembeu yake akudyara, mbeu yake inonyatsobuda zvakanaka, panonyatsoita seed soil contact yakanaka, mbeu yo ivhu rakanyatsotsetseka, mbeu yake yonyatsobuda zvakanaka. Zvakare isusu semadhumeni tinokurudzira murimi kuti afunga zvekudyara chirimwa chewheat anofanira kuona kuti ane mvura here yakakwana, nokuti winter wheat ichirimwa chinorimwa muwheat kunenge kusina mvura inonaya. Saka murimi anofanira kuona kuti mvura yake iripo yakakwana here, nokuti chirimwa chewheat chikazoshaya mvura pamastages akasiyana siyana aye anowana gohwo rakaderera. Saka tinokurudzira varimi kuti vafanire kuziva kuti mvura iripo here yakakwana yekuti gohwo rake awane gohwo rakanaka.
Tinotenda chaizvo Maichauke. Pataakusvika apa taakupendera chirongwa, ndoziva imi semudhumeni munotenderera munzvimbo dzakasiyana siyana, mune varimi vakasiyana siyana, vamwe vanoti wanezve pamusoro, vamwe vasina. Mukufamba muongori netsvagiridzo, varimi vakawanda vanonzwa kuti kurima wheat kunoda munhu ane mari. It's a project for the wealthy people. Mashoko enyu ekurudziro kuvarimi vemuZimbabwe panyaya dzekurima wheat akatarisana nekugadzirisa upfumi hwenyika. Mashoko enyu ekurudziro panyaya yekunzi chirimwa chevanhu vane mari, kana vasina mari wheat siyana nayo. Mashoko enyu maererano nezvandataura izvi.
Takatarisa chirimwa chewheat, handingati chirimwa chinganzi chinoda vanhu vane mari stereki. Ini ndinoona kuti murimi wega wega kana aine zvikwanisiro zvakakwana zvekushandisa anokwanisa kurima wheat, as long as aine mvura, as long as ma-inputs aripo. Tikatarisa iko zvinezvi government yedu ine chirongwa checommand wheat, saka tinongokurudzira varimi kuti vapinde mucommand wheat, mvura kana iripo odyara wheat zvotofamba zvakanaka.
Maita basa Maichauke, ndiri kufara nekuti mauya kuzotsigira chirongwa muzuva ranhasi.
Aiwa, tinotenda Madam Wadzanai, tinongoti isusu madhumeni tiripo, varimi tibate nguva dzose tinenge tiripo.
At this point in time, I am joined by Mr. J. Budala. He is the manager here at Arusha Farm, Goromonzi District, Mashonaland East. Budala tinokuchingamiza ipachirongwa.
Ayo, ndotenda amai nekuya kwa Maita kuno. Nasi mauya tichitomwa wheat yedu pano. SC Select ndo yatumwa panapa pa Arusha. Ndatenda hangu nekuya kwa Maita.
Maita basa Budala. Sezvo mataura kuti tiri panguva yekumwaya wheat, tiri kutodyara nhasi tiri kutodyara wheat. Ndeapi mabasa amunenge muchiita ma-activities acho ekuti munokwanisa kuti pakupera kwezuva chokwadi takadyara wheat munorara makagutsikana kuti wheat iri muvhu ichamera?
Tine zvinhu zvakawanda amai zvatinotarisa kana tichinge tichimwaya wheat yedu. Chinhu chekutanga ndechekuti tinotaurirwa kuti tinoziva kuti tiri kuda kuisa ma-kgs mangani per hectare. Ndo chinhu chekutanga. Ne-fertilizer yachona tofanira kuti tichiziva tiri kuisa ma-kgs mangani per hectare. Tadaro ndo patinotora mishini yedu yamuri kuona panapa. Panapa tine Gaspado, iVicon. Inoda kuzivikanwa kunzi inodira mbeu ma-meters akakura sei. Iyi yatinayo panapa tinoimwaisa pa 12 meters. Ndo yatinoti muchirungu swath. Width kuti iri kudira pakakura sei.
Okay. Yes.
Saka tiri papo pa Gaspado papo ine patinobata kuchuna tichigadzira kuti zvifambirane nezvatiri kuda pambeu yatiri kudira per hectare. Zvimwe chetezvo nekufertilizer kwachona.
Alright.
Then kumashure kweizvozvo tapedza kumwaya fertilizer yedu nembeu pamwe chete tinozounza chinhu chinonzi roller yamuri kuona iri panapa futi. Ndo chinozotera mashure chichitsindira. Tinogona kuchitsindirisa zvatinoda kuti mbeu yedu yese itsitsirwe nevhu kuitira kuti patinozodiridza iwane kugeminata nokuti mbeu inongogeminata chete nekuti yakabatirwa mutota nevhu redu.
Imimi waBudala ndonzwisa panga ndichitaura naWendy kuti gore rapfuura iri mwaka wapfuura makarima 80 hectares of wheat mukaita average of around 8 tons per hectare. Kureva kuti bhizimisi riri kufadzai because gore rino mwaka uno tiri kunzwa kuti maraudzira masvika ku150 hectares. Ngatitaurei nemaresponsibilities enyu imimi samanager zvinoita kuti muensure kuti chokwadi wheat iri kumunda tichabudirira, ichabudisa goho rinofadza, tichaita profit, nyika ichadya, nyika ichaguta.
Ya, chinhu chekutanga chanoda kutaura nacho Wadza ndechekuti uchida kuenda kunorima, you have got to make sure that you have done a good land preparation.
Yes.
Kana tichinge tichitaura nyaya land preparation, we mean to say that wakaenda here kunoita so Texas atinoti pH.
Yes.
Wopiwa the right recommendation agronomist kuti unoda fertilizer yakawanda sei padhaka raunenge unaro. Then tadaro ndokugadzira kurima. Tine fertilizer yachona here, tine mbeu dzachona here. Topinda mumunda. Chinhu chinofadza isusu varimi. Kunyanyanya isusu tinoshandira vazeminda atini tishandira. Murungu waonoshandira angave Uganda jena kana mutema anofarira goho.
Ichokwadi.
Goho ndo rinoreva kuti maunza mari pa farm. Inove development. Yekuti muri kubudirira. Panapa gore rapera pamwaka wakapera takaisa 400 kg per hectare. Iri basi yepasi. Yedu kana kuti urea takaisa 500. Asi takanga tichiisa muzvikamu zviviri. Zvichireva kuti after hardening nyambotaurwa kuno twatatangota the first application yedu urea which is about 250. Then in 2 weeks time we come back again with another 250 kgs of urea per hectare. That means inenge yatopera. Asi tichifamba nechirimwa chedu tichichitasa zvinhu zvakawanda zvambotaurwa pano zvakafana nemakonye nenguva izvo zvazvimirire kuti murimi atanga aona kuti maane makonye ndakuzoya nemishonga. Pane nguva inonzi yeroutine zvichienda nemaweeks nemaschedules ekuti wheat yedu yapapi. Tinongoenda kunyange tisina chatawana tinongonodira chete mushonga iwowo tichidzivirira. Pozoitawo pane mwe fertilizer yekupedzesera iyoyo inozoya tinoti flag lift stage. Wheat yedu yapedyo kuda kuti ibereke. Inoita kuti vanotenga wheat yedu inoita yechingwa kuti inanamuke and like tunoisa inonzi ammonium sulfate. Iyoyo ndio inoita kuti inzi iwheat.
Iflour.
Iflour inenge yato wheat flour jajayo kuti kana kumakeke kana kuchingwa inenge ichiita. Pedzezo pa wheat yatakarima pano takafara chaizvo mwaka wapera nokuti wheat yedu yese yakapinda mupremium. Ichireva kuti yakapinda mu A grade.
Alright.
Saka ndo kufara kwatiri kuita pano pamusha paArusha.
Tinotenda waBudala nekuuya pachirongwa muzuva ranhasi muchitipa mashoko ekurudziro. There you heard it, viewers. This was Mr. Budala who was telling us of a success story from the season of 2019-2020 winter wheat production, where they were averaging of approximately 7.5 to 8 tons per hectare. On that note, we are going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers, to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness. We are still at Arusha Farm here in Goromonzi District, Mashonaland East Province. I am still with the lovely Miss Wendy, Matashu, Madzura. We are talking of wheat production, given that we are in winter. Now, earlier on, before we went to the break, I was with Mr. Budala and Mrs. Chauke. Now, in this point in time, Wendy, let us talk about the varieties. I understand that we have farmers out there who are still struggling to say, okay, which variety do I use? How can I maximize on my yields for profitability sake? Let us talk about the varieties that are available for our local farmers here in Zimbabwe, and also the provinces or the districts which are suitable and conducive for wheat production.
Thank you very much for that important question. variety selection is hinged on the farmer's ability to understand the traits and attributes that come with that particular variety. Msc Nduna is the variety that farmers have been growing extensively when it comes to wheat production. The variety performs across different environments. And on environments, just to answer the question that you asked, we encourage farmers to establish wheat in provinces where you know that we find temperatures of between 15 to about 20 degrees Celsius, which is characteristic of the winter months. In warmer temperatures, that wheat will not give high yields. It will give yields that are not desirable, so it's not really encouraged. Then you find that Msc Nduna is a variety that can give farmers yields of up to 9 tons per hectare under optimum management, but it's also hinged on the farmer's ability to establish the correct population, because Msc Nduna will also need, a farmer will need to come in with sprays for problematic diseases like rust. Then there are new varieties moving with the times and the evolving new diseases that are coming on board, like the new leaf rust. There is a variety called Sc Select. So Sc Select is tolerant to resistant to that particular leaf rust disease that is problematic in wheat production. So farmers are also encouraged to take on Sc Select. It's also a short-statured variety, which means that farmers can punch in higher plant populations without the risk of lodging. And another variety coming on board soon is Sc Serena. So we need to also constantly move with the times and embrace new genetics, because they come with climate-smart techniques that are adopted to the new things that are happening in terms of disease pressure as well as the environment. Then moving out of that, we also encourage our farmers across the country to establish wheat, especially those who have winter months that give them the ideal conditions for wheat production.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I understand that there is hardening in tobacco. We talk of hardening in tobacco, and we also talk of hardening in winter wheat production as well. Can you take us through the process? What is hardening in wheat when it comes to wheat?
You know, it's a tricky part when we talk about hardening, because farmers don't understand the concept whereby they need to starve their crop of water, the much needed water for the crop to grow. Then you are starving it deliberately. That is the hardening process that we want to do in wheat production. So hardening is important because in wheat production, after germination and crop emergence, and we have the crop that is looking green on top of the ground, then you come in with a deliberate withdrawal of irrigation water. You do this for 10 to 14 days, depending on the soil type that you have. Where you find that for clay soils, you are going to withdraw the water for an increased number of days, about 14 to 17 days. But for sandy soils, because they tend to lose water faster, you need to also come in with the irrigation earlier, where you are going to come in after 10 days. But the importance of hardening, Wadza, is for you to make sure that the crop is going to be able to develop tillers. The tillers are the extra stems that are going to sprout out of the main stem, to make sure that you are going to get a higher number of spikes per plant and spikelets per plant. This is what we speak about as the economic yield in wheat production. And outside of that, the hardening process also promotes the development of crown roots, which are going to also allow the wheat to look for water in deeper zones. So it's also going to give the crop an adaptability for it to grow well. So hardening is important. It's a critical stage in wheat production.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Moving right along, we have risks and uncertainties in every crop when you do agriculture. Let us talk about the pests and diseases that are nuisance. And also on that, I would like us to talk about the fertilizer regimes, the chemicals, the herbicides, the pesticides that are required if a farmer is going to venture into wheat production.
You know, we can never emphasize enough the importance of soil analysis. So it's important for farmers to also understand that weed control in wheat production is important. Where you come in after the hardening stage and apply your weed control products, guided by the weed spectrum of the problematic weeds that will be in the field. When you have broad leaves, you need broadleaf herbicides. When you have grasses, you need herbicides that are going to select and understand that this is wheat and this is a weed. Then moving outside of that, in terms of pest control, farmers need to be guided by the problematic insect pests that come in wheat production. That include the aphids, the Heliothis bowworms, as well as the other insect pests that they may face. But they need to understand that regular scouting is the secret ingredient. A farmer's footprint is the secret ingredient in making sure that you understand and see if the insect pests have reached economic threshold levels that are going to cause yield levels that are significant.
Thank you so much, Wendy. As we round off our episode, we have come to the end of our episode today on wheat production. Let us talk about water, the water requirements per hectare. Most of our farmers, yes, they do live close to dams, they have water supply, But there's always questions. How much do I apply? Is it according to what he is doing, or your general recommendations on basically what a hectare requires in terms of irrigation?
In terms of irrigation, we spoke earlier about the issues to do with that. You need 450 to 600 millimeters of water to irrigate wheat from planting right through to harvesting. But this should be guided by the irrigation schedule, where a farmer has to have a custom-made irrigation schedule for their farm. And this should speak to the soil type that you have. Where you find that in sandy soils, you can irrigate after 7 to 9 days, coming in with 30 to 35 millimeters of water. But in clay soils, you can irrigate after 10 to 14 days. This is to do with the differences in water holding capacity of the two soil types. Where in the clay soils, you can come in with 40 to 45 millimeters of water at 10 to 14 days. But now with the onset and coming on board of precision farming, where we have implements such as the center pivot, which you are seeing here, farmers can come in after 5 days and irrigate with 22 millimeters of water. So this is important for farmers to understand that you can only tell by coming in with an auger or something to dig deep into the soil and check the level of water, where the level where the water is before irrigation and after irrigation, so that you can adjust accordingly and record. Keeping records is important. Our farmers are failing to keep records. Records will guide the next step and make sure that you're doing the right thing. And to our farmers, we encourage that this is the planting window. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you need to plan on time, plant on time, and make sure that you employ good agronomic practices, because farming is indeed a formidable business.
There you heard it, viewers. Farming becomes a formidable business if you practice record keeping. From me, your host, Wadzanai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore. And Daniel Muranganwa. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.